conversation tells a story, and the best ones begin with honesty, courage, and a little curiosity. That's where Elsa Kurt comes in. She's an author, podcaster, and independent media personality, and this is where she brings real life to the table. Authors, thinkers, creators, leaders, everyday folks with extraordinary journeys. We sit down, we dig in, and we talk about what matters, what's messy, what's beautiful, and what just might inspire you to look at the world a little differently. So pour a cup of something good, settle back and join me. This is Elsa Kurt Interviews, where truth has a seat and everyone's welcome.
Well, hey, friends, welcome back for another week of Elsa Kurt Interviews. I have another wonderful guest for you guys today and for myself. This is very selfish for me. I love having these guests on and talking about books and all of the wonderful things that happen behind the scenes in book writing. This is no exception. I'll be talking to Dr. Mary Mitchell, and she is going to be sharing the backstory behind her absolutely fascinating memoir. Here's a little bit about her.
Today's guest is a woman who didn't just break glass ceilings. She walked through them without flinching, dusted off her blazer, and got right back to work. Dr. Mary E. Mitchell built her career in the pulp, paper, and timber industries back when the idea of a woman in those boardrooms sounded about as likely as finding a prayer room at Studio 54. Her new memoir, Of Course, I Can Do That, pulls back the curtain on what that journey really looked like. Not the romanticized version, the real one. The letters home, the near catastrophes, the wins earned the hard way, and the plain vanilla negotiation style that somehow outmaneuvered entire conference tables full of men who underestimated her. She is sharp, warm, funny, and she lived the kind of life story you don't want to rush through. So settle in, because we're going on an adventure through the volatile 80s with someone who survived it with brains, grit, and one very good pen.
Mary, I already love everything about this conversation we're about to have. Everything that you cover, from the name of the book, Of Course I Can Do That, to the whole 80s, everything about the 80s. I'm so excited. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, I'm just tickled you really nailed that intro. It's really great.
Oh, good. I'm so glad you liked it. I have so much fun doing those. It's just such a blast for me. And I think it's such a great way for everybody to get an idea of who they're going to get to know with just a little bit of fun added to it. So I'm so excited. I want to dive right in, and I kind of want to start right from something a little more personal. So you built this memoir from letters that you wrote to your mother. I would love to know what made you decide to save those letters, because I know I've written letters in the past and I just toss them and never think twice about them, but you saved them. And I would love to know what made you do that, and at what point did you realize that they told a much bigger story?
I didn't save them. My mother did.
Your mom did. Good on Mom.
Yes. She was so worried about me coming into the corporate world and the man's world. And I said, Mother, I will write you 2 letters a week. And I did that for 10 years. And she saved every one. And she was a secretary for Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And her boss was a NATO delegate. So she had people from all over the world coming in. And she felt she had to entertain them. So she would buy letters in binders and say, would you like to know what my daughter's doing? And then people in her department would come in on Fridays and say, can we take Mary's binders home and read them?
Wow.
So, a week before she died, she said, do you want your letters back? And I was just in shock. And that's the whole story, good, bad, and the ugly.
Wow. That is incredible. Oh, your mom is so awesome for having said. I'm sure she's awesome in every way. But how awesome that she saved those. She knew you had a treasure right there. She knew. That's incredible.
She did.
Oh,
she was one of the most personable people. And so for talking to people who came in from all around the world, they just came in and said, what's Mary Jr. doing?
That's so great. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the 80s, and I think I have, like, really, to be honest with you, I have like selective memory when it comes to what it was actually like for women in that era. And it's really hard for me and probably from anyone who's a lot younger than me to imagine that even in the 80s, I think when we think about like the women's movement and women's rights and all of those things, we're thinking our minds go to like the 50s and the 60s and maybe even the 70s, but the 80s is a little harder to wrap your brain around. For me, I was a teenager and just, living my best wild teenager life. I don't think I knew the challenges that were actually there for women in the working world. But you certainly did. When most women were told to find safe jobs, you stepped directly into some of the most male dominated industries in America. So I have to know, because your lane was and is a very unique one, I think. The pulp, paper, and timber industry. It already sounds masculine. So give me a little back, doesn't it? Tell me a little bit about how that even happened.
Well, I had put my husband through college and we were in Columbus, Ohio. And when he was done, I said, I want to go to college too. But I had been working in a lumber wholesale office and I love the smell of wood. I love the people. So I went down to Ohio State, which was 3 miles from me, flipped through their course catalog. Here was Forest Industries Management with a minor in sawmill management, how to design a sawmill, how to all the different parts of it. So I had a job 3 days after graduation with Crown Zellerback in Portland, and I was from Ohio. And they did not have women in management. They hired 3 women at the same time. We all went through the routine of finding out the corporation. Within 2 years, I was the only one left.
Wow, no
It was
kidding.
hard. My first boss, the first day, he said, "I just want to know why you're not home baking cookies." And I just started laughing. It was like, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Wow. So you obviously you kind of took things with a grain of salt and laughed off, and you never really gave them any quarter, did you? Was
Yes.
it humor that you used to diffuse, or did you have to get kind of tough with them? And I don't want you to give away too much that might be in the book, but little glimpses if you could, because that's amazing to me.
I've only had 2 tyrant bosses in my life, and one of them was there in the 80s, and he was so challenging. He in his previous business, at Boise Cascade, people would say when he walked down the aisle, people would throw up. I mean, that's how of a tyrant he was. And I thought, I'm not going to cuss on here, but it was like bull. And so every time he came after me, because my job was the highest cost for the whole pulp mill. It was, I outspent every other cost. And so he was always on my case. But if I didn't come back at him, I was in trouble. So I'd always come right back at him in a nice way.
Sure.
And I later found out is one time I was going to quit again because I thought he wanted me to quit. He said, "Heck no, you're the broad, how did he say that? You are the pushiest broad I ever met."
So he respected you. He actually respected you. Yeah.
Yeah. He did.
Wow.
That was interesting. And then when I did it was affecting my health. It was such a tough job. So when I got another job in California and I went in to tell him, I gave him 2 weeks notice. He didn't speak to me again. He was so offended that I would leave. So I didn't know that, he had a good heart,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That gruff exterior, there was actually a good heart underneath all of that. How was it? What was it in you that made it that you weren't intimidated by him, by these people? And I know that there was some level of it. I guess it was probably more of you didn't let it show. How did you do that? Because I feel like that would be a master class for anyone, but particularly for women going into maybe male-dominated fields. Like, what did you do? How did you do that?
It was my mom. She said, "Mary, you can do anything. Just know that you can do anything." So I was in my job at the lumber office. The tyrant was the owner, and in a 15-person office within a year, 15 people left and were replaced. They couldn't stand working for him. I loved it. He was really, he said, do it my way or the highway. And I said, I'll do it your way. So I always got along. And it's interesting when you get challenged, like when my boss there at Port Townsend, well, anyway, it was so embarrassing to be with him and one of my customers and a vice president of another company. And he was just bad. He was just bad all the way. The vice president had a table in his sitting room on top of a skyscraper in Vancouver.
Oh, boy.
There was all two crystal bowls. And my boss sat down, crossed his legs, and started ticking the top of the table with his foot.
No.
Tick, tick, tick. Then he started smoking.
Oh, boy. Yeah, then you could, right? Back then it probably was.
I was just, what can you say? You can't say.
Yeah.
And then he put his cigarettes out in these crystal bowls.
Oh, no.
And my cohorts there and I just looked at one another. There's nothing you can do. He's doing his thing. He's doing this intimidation thing. So it's nothing to get upset about because it didn't reflect on me.
Yeah. Yeah. What a great perspective to have. And how do you, if you don't mind my asking, how old were you during this time frame? Like in your 20s, right?
Well, actually, I was like going to college and I graduated when I was 29. I went
Wow. Okay.
So early 30s.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're a little bit older, you're a little bit more self-confidence than a green 20-something-year-old. Yeah.
The other ladies didn't make it.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes perfect sense because I know in my 20s, I was, I didn't have that kind of backbone to be able to stand up for myself and to be able to take things in stride the way that you're older did when you're older, or can when you're older, where you're less bothered by things because you've seen more, you've had more life experiences, and you're just not going to be, bowled over by anyone in that way. But I can't even imagine being in a room like that and just, telling yourself that you're not responsible for this person's behavior and to just kind of emotionally step back from it and just let it happen. That's not easy at all.
Well, it's kind of amazing when you are looking from the outside, even though you're sitting right there and he's doing his thing. It doesn't reflect on me. People go, boy, how did you work for that guy? So.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a special kind of person to be able to withstand that. And as you said yourself, the others that started off with you did not make it. So it's wild. Now I'm so fascinated by anything to do with the 80s because it's part nostalgia for me, and it's part, like I kind of said earlier, it's kind of like learning about an era that I was part of, but also wasn't a part of in so many ways. You described the era as being volatile. Can you give kind of like a snapshot of what that meant behind the scenes? And I know that was a big part of it, but some other scenarios and types of things that was going on in that time frame.
When I was hired by Crown Zellerback, they hired me to buy wood waste from sawmills for 2 paper mills in Puget Sound. And as soon as all their pulp mills went on strike, there were like 19 pulp mills in the whole Western U.S. that went on strike. You had contracts with sawmills that you had to take their wood waste. And so I wasn't ready, but they said, you got to go deal with this. So I was pretty well thrown into dealing with the sawmills because we had a contract to take their waste. What am I going to do with it? I don't need it. And so I had to find places to stockpile it. I had to do whatever I could to keep the sawmills running because they would appreciate that.
Sure.
And at the same time, I didn't need it. And so it was very complex situation. Then you stockpile it and then you have to pick it back up and use it when now the pulp mills don't need it. So it was one or the other. You may not remember, in the 80s, the prime interest rate hit 20%, and the housing loan rate hit 18.5%. So housing was in the tubes. The world paper market was hot, and they needed more chips, and the sawmill shut down. And so it was crazy. And then 6 months later, the opposite. So it was always trying to figure out what to do. And there's this great book written by Charles Kepner and Benjamin Trigo called Kepner-Trigo. Best advice on negotiating I ever had, thank God. I read it in college. You do this, 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 you figure out what you're going to do. And then for everything you didn't think about, come up with 5 things that might happen that would blow your mind. And I'll tell you, during the 80s, they happened.
Yeah. Wow.
And then pick 10 things you could do if that happens. So you've already anticipated what you're going to do if the crazy thing happened, and the crazy thing happened.
Wow. Yeah. Everything crazy that could happen did happen, right? Oh my goodness.
Anybody in business, just it's the new rational manager. It's just packed full of stuff like that.
Yeah. And again, this is an era where it's a male dominated field. All of the workforces, for the most part, were male dominated. Women in those fields were usually secretaries and, kind of subservient, lesser roles, not running, not doing what you were doing. What was, your mom, of course, was super supportive and encouraging. You said you were, I believe, married at that time. What was your husband's reaction to all of this? Because you had to have been, for the tough exterior that you had to put on at work, when you got home, you were, I would imagine, able to kind of let that down a little bit and vent and say, oh, they're saying this, they're doing this, they had me do this. What was his reaction and response to the world that you were kind of thrust into?
We had been married 20 years before I got that job. And he was working for Bell Labs as an engineer. He told all our friends and family, I'm retiring now. Mary's got a good job.
He did. Wow.
Oh my God. So I didn't share anything with him. But after I was working such long hours, he started having an affair with my neighbor lady. And
oh boy.
We had an airplane, which we used to fly all around the country. But I came home one day and the lounge chairs were out in the grass and suntan lotion was there and 2 wine glasses in the dishwasher. This is not working out well for me.
Yeah.
One day I got home and I said, how was your day? And he said, oh, Diana and I flew up to the San Juan Islands and had lunch. I went, that's it. I'm done.
I love my favorite part. I have 2 favorite parts about that story right now. One, that you're laughing. I love that. And 2, that it was just so casual that you said, well, we had a plane that we flew around. That's not what most of us have in our driveway, right? We don't have a plane that we have. I love the casualness of, we would just hop on the plane and fly around. Yeah, I love that. It's so clear to me that your attitude of perseverance and just strength just shines right through. Like nothing is going to take you down, and that is so clear to me that is probably one of the biggest, besides your obvious intellect, your tenacity, it definitely shines through. That nothing was going to, and you're I wouldn't say that, it's probably not fair to say that you were an anomaly for the time, but you probably were more unique. Were you also surrounded by, besides your mom, other women of the same mindset, or were your girlfriends at the time like, what are you doing?
I didn't have time for anything.
No time whatsoever. You're too busy. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, when I decided to go to college, I thought, I'm going 3 years round, all year round, because I'm not here to party. I'm here to get somewhere.
Yeah. What would you say, if you could say something, and I know we're in a different world right now, but when you look back at the culture of those workplaces, what would shock younger women today the most? Because they maybe don't believe that they are, but they are so protected now in so many ways, whereas you certainly were not, and your, counterparts in the workforce like that were not. Is there anything you can come up with that would just shock them to the core right now?
Shock them. They're already going through shock.
Yeah.
In a male-dominated industry, it's a male-dominated industry. I mean, they're nicer and they're sweeter,
Right.
but they also can be a little forward in, if you're here in this job, surely, come home with me and rub my back
Mhm.
kind of things like
Yeah.
that. And the advice I have for any woman in business like that is always stick to the business. Don't
Mhm.
answer, don't respond to what they're saying. Go back to price, go back to inventory, go back to the business. And they
Mhm.
get tired and they go, okay, we'll do the business.
Right, right. Yeah. It's so, and that is such the cliche trap of any business relation. And of course, businesses now are, the majority. I'm sure there's still a few that are so male dominated, but overall, most of the professions are commingled and everything. But that is absolutely one of the biggest cliches, the office romances that always go south and always become a problem. And, we are still as advanced as we are. We still are attached to those traditional mindsets that it's always the woman that gets branded, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
if, and that has not changed. I don't care what anybody says, that has not changed. They're not talking about the guy and calling her nasty names and, implying that she sleeps around and all of that stuff. Or if they do say it, he's getting a pat on the back and she's getting, the evil eye. But yes, I that is so true. And that holds still today true, that just don't do it. Don't get involved. Stay on task on the job. It's like the best advice ever.
It is. And one of the things corporations do now is they have lawyers that make you sign an agreement every year. You are not going to do this. You're going to stay on business. And that helps a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Mhm.
Now, because you didn't really have, again, any of those real protections, no, nobody in HR looking out for your benefit there. Were there times where you felt like throwing in the towel and just being done with it, or did it just make you kind of sink in harder, deeper?
That's it.
Yeah.
I am not going to let anybody stop me from doing this job. I will find a way. I will find a way. When I first went up to Puget Sound, the person who was the wood fiber supply buyer that I was becoming had been retired 3 months. And so the pulp mill manager wanted control over my job, but Portland had control over my job. So he tried everything to get me to quit. He complained to Portland. He just did everything. And they knew what he was doing. The person that helped so much when I got up there, he gave they gave me an office in the basement
Oh, wow.
next to the janitor. And the
Showing you the
janitor,
love there.
yeah, it was so funny. And the janitor had all the news about everything that's ever happened and who was who and who was doing what. We had the greatest conversations. So I just knew everything. But
Hmm.
the manager still wished that he could get rid of me because he wanted my job under him because
Hmm.
it was $30 million a year that I spent
Wow.
with their money.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, I have always talked to the people you wouldn't talk to. I'll talk to the scale house manager. I'll
Hmm.
talk to the truck driver who's in the parking lot. I'll talk to anybody that can tell me things that are going on in the business that I might not know. So I was always gathering information.
I'm just blown away at how savvy you were. Like, just so knowledgeable, like instinctually knowledgeable. And of course, I know you have the college degrees and everything and that type of training, but the instinct is something I don't know if it can be taught, because it's instinct. Like, you just knew that's such a gift. And if you could bottle it and sell it to people, right, you'd be a trillionaire, because it's such a valuable, it's such a valuable ability to have, to be able to read people, to know a different way to approach things. And of course, in that world, you kind of it was either sink or swim, right? Like that was it. You had to do it. Incredible.
Right. And I think some women, maybe just some new people in business, don't want to ask the hard questions because they don't want to show people they don't know anything.
Yes.
I was asking everybody about everything. I was thinking, when I finally left Puget Sound, got a job in California, same type of job, buying wood, but it was for a wood-fired power plant that used 100 semi-truckloads a day of wood waste, 7 days a week. And the company that owned it had a consultant do a report, and the report said, "Oh, you can get all that wood within 90 miles of the power plant." No way in the world. Most of that wood went to Japan because it was wood for paper.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And so things happened that I just dug in, hired a couple of good people, and we asked everybody about everything. I even brought in chips from Montana to California.
Wow.
Brought in a huge barge of chips from Vancouver, Canada into San Francisco. I mean, whatever it took, we're going to do it.
Did you get pushback on that? I mean, because were you thinking outside of the box even with those ideas? Like that was just all you came up with that? You said, this is what we're going to do. Was there pushback on that? Because it sounds like it was out of the box a little bit.
It was because I worked for another company for this plant. And if we didn't do it, if we didn't get them chips and sawdust and all that, major penalties. And so at one point, it was only like 3 months into the job, my boss, who was a VP down south, said, "You need to cancel that part of the contract. You need to get the contract amended." That took us off the hook for penalties. And I said, "But then I'll lose my job." And he goes, "Well, that's the way it goes." And I did it, and it was great.
Wow. That's wild.
I talked to them about how much revenue they would lose from PG&E if I ran them out of wood.
Oh, okay.
And they went, "Oh."
Yeah. Suddenly their eyes were opened very wide, right?
And one of the fun stories, if you don't mind, is with Sierra Pacific Industries, the biggest forest landowner and owner of sawmills in the country. Their owner was Red Emerson, a historic figure in the industry. He was building a small log sawmill about 10 miles from the power plant before we started. So I went to him and I said, I'd like to buy the wood waste that you're going to have, about 15 loads a day. I needed 100, but that was good. And he said, "Well, it's going to cost you." And I said, "Well, here's the market." And he goes, "Oh, no. I'm going to keep the wood waste." And so I hired a log buyer and we started buying logs and chipped them up. Well, I didn't need his wood waste. And he was offended. And a few months later, he called me and says, okay, I'm ready to sell it to you. So all these contracts you negotiate every 3 months, 60 contracts. Anyway, so I would go in and meet with Red, and I knew what was going on in the market, and we would talk, and he would go, "Oh, you're right. Price should go up or down, whatever." Well, when he retired, and I went to another position, and I saw his vice president downtown one day, and I said, "Oh, how's Red doing?" He says, "Oh, he's doing great. But I'll tell you what, every time he hears your name, he goes, 'That darn woman never left a dime on the table.'" And I thought,
little pat on the shoulder there, pat on the back, right? So obviously you were a master negotiator. I mean, that definitely was your big part of your forte there. Tell me about, you have something called the plain vanilla approach. Explain that and how that works so well.
When I hired a log buyer who was recommended to me as a good guy, good negotiator, I said, "Okay, well, go here and talk to these people about logs." And I kind of had a feeling like, okay, I'm going to go with you. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to go with you. So we walk into this manager's office, and on the back wall were pictures of fish, every kind of fish you could think of, every kind of stream. His wall was full of fishing pictures. And my log buyer, instead of ignoring it because it's an intimidation thing, he goes to the fish. He goes, "Where did you catch these? Tell me the stories." I'm like, "Oh my God, you don't do that. They're intimidating you with pictures like that. Then you become buddies, and then you can't get the good price." And then, So I went back to my office and I thought, what did I really learn? And so I wrote down my 10 tips, and he read them and he was totally blown away. And within 2 months, he was really a good negotiator. And so I put it in the book because I think many women are intimidated by negotiation. I mean, there's so many ways. There's an example of this one sawmill I went to when I came to California, and they ushered me into the manager's office, which tells you he thinks highly of himself. And it was very dark in there, and he said, "Sit down in front of my desk." And immediately, I was 6 inches lower than he was, so he's looking down at me. First red flag. Second was there were animal heads from every animal in Africa you can think of all around the room. I ignored it. He's like looking around the room. He's like, and I went right to business.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't working. So he said, "Let's go sit in the corner of the office where there's 2 chairs and a lamp and a table in between." Sat down there. And he's waiting for me to say something because the lamp was made out of a zebra's leg.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
I ignored it.
Yeah.
Straight to business. He gave up.
Oh, you drove him crazy.
I
You
did.
destroyed every tactic that he tried to use against you. Oh my goodness. Now,
Yeah.
how did you know? Was that instinct? Had you taken a course? Did you just intuitively know and understand what he was trying to do?
Well, when I initially started, it didn't take me but a couple of weeks to realize most of the men I was going to negotiate loved to intimidate women. I thought, this is bull. I'm not going to do that. And so I started reading more about negotiation, and Kentner Trigo is really good about that in your book. And so I knew if they're trying to intimidate you, you're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
going to lose, and there's no way I'm going to do that.
Oh, I love that. I knew right from the get-go I liked you, like right off the bat. I'm like, oh, she's so like you're just such a great role model for young women too, going into business. And I just, can you teach us all a course? Can you get, like, I'm not even going into business. Like, this is what I do. I do mostly all my stuff by myself, but I still feel like I just want to know the things that if you can teach what you know intuitively, and of course that you've learned through your experiences and all of that, it's so beneficial. It's such a game changer.
Well,
Oh my
my
goodness.
10 tips, it's interesting. In California, I met a woman who ran a church we really became good friends. And her husband was an instructor at one of the colleges near Sacramento. And his wife said, "You ought to read Mary's 10 tips in negotiation." And he read it and he went, "God, half of these I didn't even think about." He sent it to a person who taught negotiation at San Diego
Mm.
State. And he goes, "There are some things here I didn't think about." So I thought, for some reason, anybody can buy the book. It's in the appendix.
Yes, absolutely. Buy that book. That's a game changer. And because so much of it is, I mean, probably all of it is psychology. It's just psychology and behavior analysis and all this, and be able to read body language, all of those things that there are people out there, there are behavioral scientists or learning this and teaching this. And it is, to be able to know to do these things, it just changes the whole playing field for, anyone who understands all of that. And, again, we're talking, and I keep harping on it, guys, because it's such a different time. It's such a different mentality, everything. This was back in the 80s that you were figuring all of this out. It's just, it just blows my mind. Now, Did you have like throughout any of this, did you have any kind of mentor who was kind of like guiding you in any way, or it was just like 100% your upbringing and your just intuitive knowledge?
Well, at Crown Zellerbach, they had several pulp mills in the Northwest, and every 3 or 4 months, all the wood fiber buyers would get together and we would compare notes. What do you think the market's going to do? What are you going to do if this happens, and so on? And the chip buyer, we call them chip buyers, they were very
Mhm.
helpful getting me on my feet. They
Oh,
were
nice.
glad I was there. My boss was as helpful as he could be, so that was nice. They didn't, well, they did. They were helpful, but when the mills went on strike, they needed somebody in Puget Sound because the buyer had been retired 3 months. So they
Mm,
said, sorry to dump you up there, but there you are.
here you go, right? Yeah.
So these barges were sitting at the dock and being unloaded, and I called, it was Foss Launch and Tug. Tug
Mhm.
was the name of the company. So I called him and I said, where are these barges coming from? Because I had no idea. Nobody.
Right.
And so their main supervisor came over the next day and went over all of it with me.
Mm. Oh,
Trucking
nice.
companies, trucks coming in, nobody could tell me where they're coming from. So I called the trucking company, and Gary Dinas, bless his heart, came over and he took me for 2 days around to every mill I was getting uh, wood waste from, told me
Wow.
the complexity, all the things that go wrong. And so I had some really great people in the industry that were
Nice.
very, very helpful.
Just random. How many mills was that? Was like how many mills were you going to at that point for
I had
that?
60 contracts.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so, some are small, some are big,
Yeah.
but every one of them was working depending on the market. They'd be shut down for 2 weeks on one shift, on 3 shifts, on no shift.
Mhm.
It was just, yeah, anyway, it's very volatile.
Wow. I know. I'm just awed by it all. Um, tell me, I know I can tell you love to laugh and you have a great sense of humor. And I would love to know if you can think of maybe something from the book, if it's in the book and you're willing to share a little snippet. What's one of the funnier memories that you have of that time that still kind of makes you laugh a little bit?
Oh, in the Port Angeles pulp mill, they really resented me
Mm,
being a buyer. So they did everything to keep me away. And the manager gave his controller charge of all the wood waste. Well, it wasn't 2 weeks later that the controller went on vacation and the whole mill went to hell. I mean, they ran out of hog fuel. They were like one day away from running out of wood to make paper out of.
mm.
I happened to stop by and said, just say hi. He goes, do you see what's going on out there? And I said, oh, yeah, I do. Can you fix it? I went, of course. Yeah.
Sure, I can. Of course, I can do that.
That afternoon, I mean, it's a God thing, actually. That afternoon, a landowner west of Port Angeles called me and he said, years ago, nobody could get rid of their hog fuel, so I let them fill up a valley on my property with it.
Mm.
I heard you're a little short. Come out here and dig it up. So within 24 hours, I had a front end loaders and self unloading trucks, and we were bringing all that hog fuel in. And, I just had to laugh. And the manager looked at me and said, can you give me a plan of how you do this and I'll let you do it? I said, of course.
Of course, I can do that. Gee, I'm having a hard time wondering where you came up with the title for this. Oh, I love it. So your yes, I cans came before you even knew if you could, right? Like
Exactly.
that's
I,
kind of like the gist of it. Like, yes, I can do that. You're going to give the answer of yes, I can, and then you're going to figure out how you can do it after the fact, right?
exactly.
I
Exactly.
love that.
Calling people, even competitors. One time I was looking for a barge of sawdust and we were going to run, it takes a mix of chips and sawdust to make paper. And we were going to run out in 2 days. And I'm like, God, I can't find a barge of sawdust anywhere. My competitor called me and he said, there's a barge of sawdust here that they don't need. and I called it up and got it the next day. So
Wow.
a lot of, helping each other without
Yeah.
going home office.
Yeah, I did not expect that the help would be there like that from the competitor. So that's actually pretty cool. That's a nice surprise there.
Well, it takes
Um,
a level of respect for each other.
yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah.
Now, when you were going through these letters, because that in itself had to be such an experience to be rereading those letters all over
Oh,
again. Oh my goodness. It just had to have taken you back into that time, that mindset and all of the things. Tell me a little bit about what that was like for you to take these letters and now, of course, the whole rereading them and revisiting that time. What was it like for you putting it together in book form? What did you find it easy, challenging, a mixture of both, fun, terrifying, daunting, anything?
all of the above.
All of the above.
And I put them away because I really didn't want to read them.
Mm.
About 6 months later, I thought, okay, get them out. And I thought, okay, type them up for posterity. And it was 123 typed pages.
Wow.
And that's my memoir.
Yeah. Wow.
And I wanted it to be realistic. And it was
Yeah.
almost word for word.
Mhm.
I left out when our neighbors came over for dinner and stuff like that. But anything about business, because she wanted to know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Your mom sounds like she was a bit of a innovator, a little bit of a outside of the box thinker for the time also.
Yes.
So it
Yeah.
sounds like it was well passed down. I think that's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else do I ask you? There's so many great things. I asked you about your funny moments. I love that. I asked you about your mentor. We live in a world obsessed with buzzwords like female empowerment. But you actually lived that. That was your reality. Like you were female empowerment before it was a buzzword. What do modern conversations about women in leadership get right? And what do they get wrong, in your opinion?
I think it's the simple part. Anytime they're trying to intimidate you, just realize that.
Mhm.
And if you go along with it, you're going to lose whatever it is that you're negotiating for. But also when it gets personal, um, how many times somebody had a sore back and wanted me to come home with them because his wife was
Mhm.
on the gym, blah, blah, blah. No,
Mhm.
stay with the business. And they respect that. Then they don't do it again, which is the
Right.
best part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. If your if your book were to become a required reading in business schools, let's just imagine that it did.
Oh,
What would be the single lesson you hope that they take away from it?
know your market, know the people in the market in every position you can, because sometimes it's the guy that moves the barge to the dock that's got more
Mhm.
information than anybody, or the janitor. Talk to everybody. Don't think they're low enough not to talk to. Just build your framework of I know the pulse of everything that's going on. Because in Puget Sound, for instance, negotiating 60 contracts every 3 months, I
Mhm.
had to do it quickly, so I had to know everything. What every sawmill was doing, what every inventory at the pulp mills, um, were all the trucks running, were all the barges running, I had all the stuff. So I had about 15 things that were on my checklist to know what is the current condition. And my winning point on that is at one point, I told my boss in Portland, chips were running around $100 a ton. I think I can get them down 30%. And he goes, no, 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 no. And he checked with other chip buyers and they go, oh, Mary, that's ridiculous. I said, I'll bet you each
Mhm.
50 Crown Royal that I'll get it done. And they said, hey, piece of cake.
Yep.
You won't get that. So I met with the key major supplier, and he only gave me 15 minutes to tell my story, and he tried to poke holes in it. Yeah, after 15 minutes, he goes, damn, sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. So I had 5/5 of Crown Royal.
That's pretty awesome. And by the way, I'm well aware what a male-dominated world would sound like and can sound like. So I just want to commend you for not having that trucker mouth on you, because if you do, you kept that in check this whole time. It has taken me. I'm in the very, very difficult process of learning how to not swear, by the way, and I'm failing miserably most of the time. So yeah, you gave me a chuckle with that, because I could just imagine what the language sounded like. So if you were just a sweet young innocent girl of the 80s being dropped into that world, the kind of language and mentality that was probably just a matter of course for the era, it probably would have been quite the eye opener. So fortunately, you were unfazed like you were.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Mary, tell everyone where they can find your book, and if you're doing, I'm sorry, I don't know if you're doing any book signing appearances, but if you are, feel free to let people know where you're going to be and where they can find you and all that good stuff.
We're just at the beginning of the publishing, and right now it's on Kindle on Amazon. And within 2 weeks, the paperback will be available, then the hardback, and then the audio. So it's all be unfolding over this next month. And it's very, very exciting. So we'll see how it goes.
Wonderful. I'm so excited for you. I'm excited, even more than I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the people who read this book. And I am going to very strongly encourage that it becomes some curriculum in a business school, because it sounds like it is delivered in a way that would resonate and really mean something, instead of like just dry, manual material. So yeah, I'm going to vote for that. If I could, I would.
You did. You just did.
There, I put it out into the universe. So, Oh,
I think if anybody in college right now has a chance to take a negotiation course, they should. Business writing. Oh, that's a big one. Got to learn the business writing.
yeah.
And dealing with people, dealing with difficult people. That's really important.
And I think more than ever right now, that is a lacking skill, because we've hit a point in time where our egos and ourselves, I'm generalizing, are very fragile, and we are not capable. We haven't been raising young adults capable of handling those situations. So find a way, guys, because you're going to need it if you want to be playing in the real world. If you want to play with the big dogs, you better figure it out, kids.
Absolutely.
Oh, Mary, again, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I enjoyed learning all about this, and I can't wait to check out your book. And guys, everyone watching and listening, the link for the book will be in the show notes, and you'll be able to find everything about Mary Mitchell and her book right there. So make sure you do. And after you read it, make sure you go and review it on Amazon. We ask you guys this every chance we get, because it is so critically important to help other people find the book. So Mary, thank you again for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
I so appreciate you. And it's been totally delightful. Thank you.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Take care, and we'll see you guys next week.
From small-town love stories to battles of truth and loyalty, Elsa Kurt's books follow the same heartbeat. Ordinary people facing extraordinary moments. You'll find romance, drama, second chances, even a peek behind the microphone in her newest release. Multiple genres, different worlds, same thread. Bold truth, real faith, no apologies.